Coretta Scott, King School. So the, when we look at the charter schools and we look at what we're doing with the public schools, the charter schools always have the ability to have smaller classrooms. They have more control over the discipline area because when you join this charter school, you know, parents sign all of these papers and you have all of these requirements and these rules and regulations. And if you don't follow the line, then a lot of them will, well, you know, they expel the students or they put them out. I'm not sure exactly what the correct term is, but they don't have to keep those students in their schools, and they have the opportunity to send those students back to their public zone schools. So when we look at and we see that when they talk about graduation rates, that their graduation rates may be higher. Well, if you are going down from, say, a graduating class of 300 compared to a graduating class of, say, 100, it's easy to get those 100 through when everyone is concentrating on those 100 as opposed up to the 300 where they're not getting that kind of support. Their parents haven't really signed on to them doing anything other than dropping them off at school. You know, there's no family support. Whereas if you get into this charter school that you've been trying to get your children into, then you're going to be more likely to make sure that your child succeeds. So they have that support from home that a lot don't get. But on the other hand, the money that they're taking, that they're giving to the charter schools, and the charter schools get to do exactly what they want to do, whereas in our public schools, you don't have that opportunity. You don't have that much control over what they're doing with the money in our particular school, which makes the difference to me.
Okay, so you make some good points. I know the class size, you don't have to keep those disruptive students or those students that can't cut it. And you know, statistically, about 27,000 of the schools in the United States are private or parochial. So it's a very small number. And I know typically smaller class sizes are the draw. And I guess Principal Marentek, what I'll ask you is there a some type of campaign that your school system has to sort of let people know, yeah, you know, you have the reputation of some of the private schools in the area, but here are some of the things that are going on here in Clark County that you may want to pay attention to that you may not see at a private school or a parochial school?
Oh, yes. We definitely have a lot of those perks to attending a lot of our schools in the Clark County School District. You know, we have the magnet programs, and there's magnets on different parts of the valley that focus on, emphasize on career building skills. And, you know, some of them are preparing our next teachers. Some of them are preparing our future doctors and future politicians. And so I think that our magnets are a draw. We have a lot of AP and IB programs at some of the comprehensive schools. And so, you know, things like that we use for, you know, just as kind of like our pitching techniques to keep kids in our schools. And the magnets are going as far down as elementary, which is where a lot of the charters are beginning. I know in Clark County, unfortunately, some of our charters have closed down due to test results and things of that sort. And I wouldn't say that it's because of lack of number of kids trying to attend the schools, but, you know, for some of the same reasons, their teachers at some of the schools are not required to have some of the same requirements that we are in the Clark County School District. You don't actually have to have a license in education to teach at the charters, at some of the charter schools.
Well, you know, that's one of the things.
We have a lot of those kind of issues.
Well, you know, that I'm glad you brought that point up. That's one of the things I was going ready to ask you. What is the difference between a charter school and a charter school that's, I guess, being supported by the public school system as they have in some cities, and a private school? Is there a difference, or is it just semantics? Can you kind of explain that for some of the listeners that may not know?
Yeah, I think it's a little combination of both. I know that as far as the private sector, you know, they can offer whatever curriculum they want to offer. And, you know, I think as the caller mentioned, the behavior and the discipline structure, you know, they can put a kid out and you're just gone permanently. You need to get back into the Clark County School District at that point. And so, you know, the private schools do have that flexibility Whereas the Clark County School District, it's pretty set by the state and the county. And so, there's just certain things that, because we work for the state,
Sure. Now,
our hands are tied sometimes.
Now, in
our curriculum is kind of given down by the
Sure.
state, and so I think those are some of the differences.
Well, now in certain jurisdictions,
I'm
sorry,
not to cut you off. There are a lot of charter schools that do offer some of the magnet things that our district offers, but maybe not quite as extensive. And I know that like the universities, the state universities cater to the Clark County School District's education as far as meeting certain requirements for graduation to attend UNLV and UNR and Nevada State. There are certain things that they look at for the Clark County School District. They come to our schools and they recruit our children for their universities and for their sports teams and for their different academic purposes. And I'm a product of the Clark County School District as well. I graduated from Cimarron Memorial High School. And, I
go
went
ahead and get that plug in. Get that plug in.
Initially, yeah. Huh?
I said, get that plug in.
Oh, yeah, got to put that in. But I, too, went away to college, and it's kind of funny how we were talking earlier about the culture in Nevada. And so as I was at HBCU in Alabama, I'm talking to all the students, and they're like, wow, we love your accent. Where are you from? And I'm like, well, this is how it's supposed to sound, actually. When I told them, they're like, oh, what hotel did you live in? And I'm like, well, we live in houses, It's just what people think outside of this state. It's amazing,
Sure.
So.
Well, in certain jurisdictions, and you can enlighten us about Nevada, the charter schools are actually supported by the public school system. Is that the same thing here?
There are quite a few, yes. They fall under the jurisdiction of the Clark County School District. There are some that do not, but the majority do fall. We have a charter school division within the Clark County School District.
So how does that work? I mean, as a taxpayer, so where do my tax dollars go in terms of, okay, we're supporting all these schools in Baltimore County or Clark County or Howard County, wherever. Mm-hmm. So how does that work with the charter schools? Are they given a certain amount of money? And my other question is, while you're thinking about that one, since some of them are receiving public funds, if I'm correct with that assumption, are they allowed to not accept people?
So yes, the charter schools do have the right to say no to students, and they are allowed to put students out, and then they're never allowed to return back to that specific charter realm again.
Wow.
For discipline reasons or even academic reasons. I know some of them say if you don't maintain a certain GPA, then you can't stay at our school. So I do know that is the case at some schools. As far as the funding goes, I can't professionally speak on that. I do know that like our taxpayer dollars go directly to the Clark County School District student. I do know some funding, but a lot of it is grant funding that keeps a lot of our charter schools in motion, if you will.
Wow. So has that ever been challenged before? I'm just, and I'm asking that question as a lay person who, who doesn't necessarily never worked on that side of the municipal government thing. But with that being said, has that been challenged before? Have you had parents who say, wait a minute, now I'm paying all this money in taxes and I'm living here in Texas or wherever I'm living, and why did my child get turned down from going to this charter school that's being funded with public dollars?
Well, and they're not solely funded with public dollars, though.
Okay.
But they do receive some kind of funding. And so I'm pretty sure that is an argument that a lot of parents have.
Sure.
Because I've seen parents just on the public side.
Sure.
With children trying to enroll in when I was in the comprehensive schools, parents try to school hop and school shop. And you can't really do that in the Clark County School District. You're zoned for a certain area. That's where your kid goes to school. The only way you can get another option is to do what's called a zone variance, and which happens a lot in our district, if something happens at a school and that area seems bad, then they're going to let me zone variance my child over here, which needs the signature of both principals to to approve for a child to move from one school to another.
Sure.
That's not in their zone. And so that happens a lot here in the district, especially like when kids are, they leave the district and they'll go to a charter, and then they may not like it at a charter, and they try to go back and they want to pick a different school. The school hopping and shopping happens a lot, more than it should.
Wow. So that school hopping is a nationwide entity, I suppose.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now, caller, you were talking about Atlanta, and one of the things I wanted to find out, and then we'll let you go, because I'm sure others will want to add their opinion once I ask this question. But in terms of truancy in Atlanta and, of course, in Clark County and others, what was your experience there in Georgia overall in terms of truancy? It seems like that's an issue. I know even in Dayton, Ohio, they were actually having an issue with white children having issues with truancy. And the African American students, of course, were having challenges with some of the standardized testing. So that created quite a challenge, according to the source that I was looking at. What has been the experience in Georgia? And then, of course, Principal Morentek, if you could kind of share what has been the experience in Clark County in terms of truancy and that type of thing.
Well, in APS, the truancy problem, of course, was always seen. Well, when I look at the numbers, it was, of course, higher for our children, either being tardy to school, cutting classes. The experience at my daughter's high school that I had was that the children would cut class in the school. Okay, so they had trouble just making the children go to class. They recently, I think it was last year, they switched from having the Atlanta Police Department to handle the truancy to a school board police department, okay, which a lot of the parents did not want them to go to because, and I won't say it wasn't just the parents. I know it was a lot of teachers that did not want that to happen because we felt that they were going to hide a lot of the criminal activities, shall I say, or the juvenile problems that they were having. And, of course, we don't want to arrest our children and incarcerate them at such an early age, but some of the activities that the children were doing were, they needed to be arrested, for lack of a better term, okay, for me. So when it came to truancy, they wanted to play with the numbers, in my opinion. They didn't want to record it as being truant. They just wanted to keep it kind of undercover, so they could still get the federal funding, because in APS we have a lot of schools that they just turned over to being underprivileged schools. Title I schools, okay, 100% Title I schools, even if they weren't necessary. If they were over 80%, then it was 100%. And so they wanted to keep the bodies in the seats. So I felt they played with the numbers. That's just my personal opinion.
Wow. Well, as always, we certainly appreciate you calling in, and
thank you.
Yes, indeed, and please keep listening. And also, I'm going to let Principal Morentek respond to what you just told us.
Okay, and I want to thank her. I'm
Sure.
really enjoying hearing her perspective of from her high level. Okay, and I commend anyone who is in the trenches teaching and loving our children. And thank you for all you do.
Indeed.
You all have a good evening.
Oh, thank you so much.
Great point. Principal Morentek?
So just to respond about the truancy, I think that our county does a great job of trying to, I guess what's a good word for it, circumvent the truancy issues that we have. Our information is public. They're definitely not sugarcoating or curtailing any of that information. But, one of the things that we have is what's called the Truancy Diversion Program. And that's with the court system. And so it's where a judge actually, when I was the dean at Legacy High School, a judge would actually come over to our school once a week, same judge, and an assistant or two from his office, as well as one of the administrators